We have October is hard to believe. Thanksgiving is behind us, and Christmas is months and 20 days away. It's hard to believe, or something of that sort. We have a regular town council meeting. We have an agenda, and it's a fairly short agenda. So if we work well, we should be out early. I won't say when, but I say early. So I need someone to approve the agenda. Councillor Burton?
Yeah, I'll move to approve the agenda of October 11th.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. Good. We have Councillor Court via Zoom, and welcome, Councillor, and
Thank
we
you.
wish you well.
Thank you.
We have some meetings of September 27, 2022. I read them from the to be reflecting the intent of council. So we need to adopt.
I'll make that motion.
Councillor,
Make that motion.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the minutes of September 27. All in favor? Thank you very much. All right. We have Ben Court here for delegation, and welcome, Ben.
Thank you.
And come and talk to us about your idea. You're always full of very great ideas. So we appreciate ideas. Sometimes we have different ideas too, but go ahead with your idea.
I'm actually here to talk about the wildlife problem in Cardston. All the raccoons, yeah, the raccoon problem. Yeah. I think there's a few different ones. I had a marmot in my backyard, and there's a few different things running around. But
well, we rural. That's nice.
Well, thank you for allowing me to come and talk with you today. I appreciate that, and I just while I'm here, I want to firstly thank each and every one of you for your service to our town and for the dedication that you guys put towards your job. So thank you for that. For those who don't know me, my name is Ben Court. I'm Councillor Court's son. And the reason why I came to talk to you today, it might be on your agendas, but to discuss potential for some matting at Town Square. So before I get into too much of the details, I want to explain to you how I got to this point for this idea. So I am part of a large baseball and softball community here in Cardston. I am part of I am the Little League president, vice president of men's league, I'm president of co-ed softball. I ran the family tournament, softball tournament for the last 7 years. I coach 3 Little League teams, high school team. I am a proud part of Challenger Baseball. Basically, if there's anything that has to do with the bat and ball in this town, I usually am around and trying to help out. And now, I tell you this at the risk of sounding a little bit crazy, as my wife puts it, when I list all those things, but the reason why I say that is just because I feel like I have a grasp on the community's needs related to baseball and softball. So with Cardston, I mean, we've had a rich history of softball and baseball in our town for many years, dating back to as far as when Councillor Court claims that his bunch of hooligans from Raymond would come up and beat Cardston, which still hasn't been proven. But
I have the records.
and that continues today. So this last year for Little League, we had 225 athletes register for Little League baseball. Cardston Girls Softball had over 100 registered. Cardston Men's League had 8 teams with over 100 participants in each with over 100 participants there. The Women's Softball League had 6 teams, and then the Cardston Co-ed Softball had 6 teams. And then our family tournament this year, which is Cardston-based families, we had 12 teams enter the tournament. As well, I think it's worth noting that we have several other groups of interest. There's a group that goes down to the seniors game in St. George, the seniors games for softball, and they call Cardston home practice here, use the fields. As well as our Indigenous population, we have a large constituent out there that with softball teams, they participate in our leagues as well, but they also travel throughout Alberta. I know there's a few teams that travel throughout Alberta for tournaments, and again, they use Cardston kind of as their main area. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of interest in use of these fields. And I think if you take a drive around Cardston in May and June, you'll quickly see that there's a bit of a problem that we have, and I call it a wonderful problem. And that is that our fields are at capacity. And they're being used by all these different groups, and then you add there in May, in June, you add the church youth groups who get ready for their rainy weekend tournament. So with all of that, we kind of have like I said, it's a bit of a wonderful problem that I call it, in that we don't have the capacity for teams to be able to practice as much as we would like them to. So that's where I got to this point for the batting cages for Town Square, to be able to provide a facility that will help any and all of these individuals to further their skills with softball and baseball, and to provide a place where this training can take place, that coaches can use it, families can use it. So I'm just going to find my place on my notes here.
Can I ask a question?
Do you mind?
No.
Relevant to what you just paused on there.
Mm-hmm.
So, with all those groups, I mean, that's crazy. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. Which of those groups do you envision using that batting cage the most? Would it be the younger people?
Generally speaking, it'd be the youth groups. Yeah, it would be probably Little League and girls softball that would benefit from it the most. But I know that if there was potential openings there, that there would be adults that would use it as well. So, but the majority of it would be, I would say, the youth that would use it. So.
And Little League plays on the Town Square court.
So Little League, this year we used every bit of diamond green space that we could get. Yeah, we held games at the elementary school quite frequently, and we're working with them to upgrade those fields as well. Because it's an ongoing concern that we've had that we're trying to address, to be able to provide areas for practice and games, and to be able to make it so that everybody that needs to use the diamonds is able to use it. So there are other ideas that I come up with that I won't go into details now, but this is just one of the ones that I had come up with that would potentially help alleviate the practice situation for some of these leagues. I know one of the questions that I've been asked with this project, one of the first ones a lot of people ask is, what about the Lions Park? There's a batting cage down there, but it's in dire need of a lot of repairs. We would have liked to have had it for the last couple of years, but it hasn't been in working condition. And there's also a few things related to that batting cage that need to be addressed, as far as like the asphalt at the bottom, the pavement on the bottom is pretty rough, and it will tear up balls fairly quickly. So a different surface needs to be addressed, but that's kind of a different topic for a different day. But on that note, I have been asked again, like with that, I do think, again, coaching high school baseball and then being part of Little League, that we would get good use out of both of those. I think that it's not unrealistic to say that both batting cages could be used extensively and that would be used extensively. Town Square, generally speaking, Little League is mostly up there, and so again, it would benefit them a bit more. Girls softball is at Town Square as well, but again, we spread throughout just to kind of to get to the fields that we need to be able to host our games. So the location of the batting cages at Town Square, and
They have a map.
They have maps, okay. So, there's a couple locations, and as far as I'm concerned, I mean, the number one thing is to be able to get batting cages. Where they're at, obviously we'd like to have a bit of a say, but it's more or less just need the batting cages. So, I envision them just west of the tennis courts there. There's an open green space. But I've also had the thought that, and I don't know how this would work, but I think it would be a great opportunity, is maybe taking the west tennis court and turning that into a batting cage, and maybe 2 other courts there for pickleball and tennis. It already provides 3 chain link walls, adding another one. With the surface that's there too, that is a nice smooth surface that potentially could be enhanced in the future with turf and other things, and would provide an even better, more than just a batting cage, but a training area for baseball to be able to use. And as we know in the country, getting on the field in April isn't always a thing that happens, so turf allows you to get outside a little bit earlier and not have to deal with the mud and the rain. So that's the location that I envision for this. Now the cost of it. So I have been in contact with Caitlin from the
Community Foundation.
Community Foundation. That's what we're going to call it for there. Community Foundation.
Short, yeah.
In regards to this project, when I first got in contact with her, I had told her that I was from Little League, and she said, well, in order for these projects to work, they need to be a community access project. And so I said to her, well, I'm on Parks and Recs as well, and I think that explain for what I've explained to you about how our community has a large baseball and softball population, and that this could be something that could benefit a lot of different people. And so I talked with Jeff about the accessibility thing, and I think that that's something that we could definitely work together on to make it something that's open to the community, and but also protect it from getting vandalized or anything like that. And so on that note, with the Community Foundation, their application is due at the end of this week, and so I know it's a bit of a race to get it in there. And so that's why I had wanted to come and meet with you today to kind of get this going potentially. Yeah.
Can I go ahead, Councillor Brown? Okay. I just wanted to ask you, did you pass that by your Parks and Rec committee as a priority? Is
No.
that a priority of your committee?
No, it did not go to the Parks and Rec committee.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Any reason?
It just kind of, I guess I probably not enough planning on my part, if I'm being honest, that I didn't get it done back in July or August. But that's yes. I mean.
No, I appreciate
yeah.
your rationale.
Yeah.
I appreciate the honesty of the
I also felt too that this project, because the cost of it, with batting cages, it can be something very simple that can accommodate what we need, up to something more extravagant with turf and everything like that. Now, I don't envision that big expensive batting cage is going to be something that we want or need, but the cost of the project as well, I don't feel is a high. The cost isn't very high on it, and with the grant from the Community Foundation, if we're successful with that application, that would help with the majority of that.
Oh, I don't know.
Councillor Quirk, you tell us everything you want, please.
Yeah, that's my dog.
Councillor Kenley.
No, I was just going to say, I talked with Ben, I don't know how long ago about this, like a couple months ago maybe. He approached me and we were just talking about it, and I thought it was great, and it seemed more, you know, if the grant was there, it wasn't so much the cost to the town, it was more the green space that he's looking for. I mean, there might be some cost, but It's more of the green space, the area that he's looking for from the town, if I kind of remember.
Councillor Grainger, go ahead.
Maybe a couple of basic questions if I can. How many cages are you talking about?
So I was hoping to do 2 70-foot batting cages, batting tunnels. For a couple different reasons. If you go 70 feet, the pitching distance, the full pitching distance and it goes from Little League all the way up to 60 and a half feet, give you the opportunity to be able to pitch in there as well. It's not just have batting. And then if you can cut the 2 in half, there's netting that you can get that drops in the middle, and then you got 435 different areas for hitting. And anybody that's seen little kids in baseball, one of the things is keeping them occupied, keeping them going, and so having more stations for kids to be able to participate in hitting is always a good thing.
So it's not just a fenced cage, it's also the mechanism that hurls the ball towards the batter?
No. So again, that's something that potentially could be added in the future, and Little League does own pitching machines, running electricity there, things like that. But generally speaking, so again, when I coach baseball, most times I'm sitting on a bucket giving these kids pitches, and that's usually the best way for kids to get a lot of batting practice in is to have coaches in there, especially the younger kids, because you can kind of accommodate to their needs a little bit more.
So what you're talking about is 2, excuse my vernacular here, but 2 fenced-in tunnels, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you can throw a ball to a batter, and then they would hit the ball back out to 70 feet. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how much, it sounds like you don't have a lot of good numbers yet, but what are we talking about? Like if you're contemplating putting an application in a week, you must have a dollar figure per cage in mind.
Yeah. So Cardston Little League would be responsible for the netting, and we would fund that. We would purchase the netting for the batting cages. And I think that's something that I would like to come back onto Little League in the sense that we would be responsible for that, putting it up, taking it down. We could have some ownership of that. And then I think it just helps us to make sure that the batting cages are taken care of, things like that. So that cost, Little League is willing to purchase those. So then the additional cost, again, it can be something simple, it can be a little bit more complex, but the very simple form of it would be chain link fence around. And so probably the numbers that I came up with were about 30 feet, 35 feet wide, about 80 long.
How high?
With the chain link, I mean, I guess that depends on, I mean, 6 feet, 8 feet. It doesn't. That's not. All that is a deterrent. It has nothing to do with the batting itself. It's just to keep people out or to kind of keep it contained.
So what's the pricing then?
On the fencing?
Yeah. How are you pricing it if you don't have the height?
Okay, we could say 6 feet then. I mean, it's kind of. I'm fine with whatever I guess the general consensus from people that might know more than I do about this, to say, yeah, it would be better. We know that people might try to get into this. Other places in town, we've done 6 feet, we've done 8 feet. So I'm open to that. I guess I would leave that up to people that I feel have a little bit more expertise. But, sorry, go ahead.
Just a quick question. But what are you putting in a grant for that?
So I was still waiting to hear. Jill was going to send me a quote with the cost of the fencing down at the dog park, and I was going to use that to base it off of it.
So, first of all, thank you for all your volunteering, all that craziness. Good job. We appreciate it. I will add also that I served with him on Parks and Rec, and he's a go-getter and fantastic.
Oh, I know.
And he also, him and Kent Winder do the Challenger Baseball, which I don't know if you're aware, that is a fantastic program as well, so thank you. Just a couple of questions. The first one is, so this grant, so I'm hearing a couple of asks I think. So the first ask is you to us is for support on putting in this application that's due Friday, because you have to have the support of council and you have to run it through the town, is my understanding, in order to get this grant. Is that right?
That's one of the routes, yeah.
Okay, so that's the first question. And then the second one is a location. And does the location have to be decided today? Or can we not put that off until we see if you actually get the grant?
Yeah. First and foremost, like I said, the most important thing is to get the batting cage.
Okay, just because this is a huge...
Location would be a
I mean, it took us 14 years just to put a dog park in, so, you know, I'm just trying to expedite things for you a little bit here. So, as of today, your ask for us would be just to support this grant to going in, so that if you do get money for the batting cage, we'll then cross the bridge as to where it goes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Grainger.
I didn't hear a number yet for batting cage. What are you going to ask for in terms of total dollars?
So, and again, I apologize because this is going to sound cloudy, and I'm going to try to answer your questions best I can. There's a price, and so a lot of it, I guess, some of the stuff I'd be asking for is working time from the town on this project, because there is the private sector price. I've gone to one of our local shops in town to get a quote on a metal bracket, which would be the top end price of what we would spend for these batting cages. So I'll try to, and let me try to paint a bit of a picture as to what these batting cages look like really quick, so that you can kind of get the gist of it. So if we have two batting cages in there, we would have two ends with metal brackets or wood or whatever it is, and then you have wire between the two, and then the netting goes on the wire and can be retracted if needed and things like that. And then they're just carabiner up onto the wire, suspended between the two supports there. So, sorry.
I'm just trying to get, can you give me a ballpark figure?
Yeah, I was getting there, sorry, I apologize. I was just explaining that. So, talking with one of the shops in town for the metal brackets, he said it would be anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000. He's still trying to get me a more solid price on that, and that's metal. So that would be the most expensive part of it. But I do think that this can be done with wood posts. If you look at down at the Redford East, there's posts that they put up there for the safety netting. Something similar to that could definitely be used as well. The netting, sorry.
Like I said, I'm just trying to figure out roughly what are we talking about per cage. Are we talking $5,000, $10,000, $20,000?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what this cost is going to be, roughly, in terms of the other things that we get asked about and what our priorities may not be.
Yeah.
So is this a $10,000 grant request? Is it a
so I've asked for $7,500 for the grant request. Pardon?
For two or one?
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, to break it down per cage is kind of misleading, because we're already doing the work of putting up fencing and stuff like that, and so to add the second one is not going to cost as much, obviously. The nets are about $1,500 each. So if we do the brackets on the end at $4,000, and I apologize, I didn't get the numbers on the fencing, but that would be the main cost of that would be the brackets.
In ballpark numbers, you could be looking at $10,000.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yep.
Forgive me, I'm an engineer. I work in absolute.
And ballpark number.
Yeah, no, and engineers even do ballpark processes. So the application, whose name would that be in? Are you asking that the town apply on your behalf?
So, as far as I understand it, Jeff, you may be able to add a little bit of information to this. I would be applying, because Lily doesn't have a CRA number to apply for on our own, nor does any other organization that I'm a part of have a CRA number. So in order to be able to apply, I would have to apply through the town of Cardston.
So it would be a town of Cardston application. application to the foundation. Okay, so what's stopping me there, or concerning me there, is that the foundation doesn't normally fund, either directly or through a third party, recreation, team sport, recreation facilities. So you're asking us to mask this.
No, I believe this could be an asset to the community. I think that everybody in the community could use it. I think that there could be accessibility to anybody in the community that wants to use it. I don't think we have to restrict it at all to just Little League. In fact, obviously
what I'm getting hung up on, though, is if it was an application to 649, sure. But specifically, the foundation doesn't normally permit applications of this nature.
Which is why I talked to Caitlin from the foundation to explain the project, and she said to send in the letter and to continue forward with it. Because it is something, I mean, I look at it as something as similar to playground equipment or anything like that that can be used by anybody. And I think just because it's a little bit more specific to people that play softball and baseball. But again, it can be something that the community can use as well. It's not solely owned by.
Councillor Boak, you have a question or comment?
Yes. Just a question for Jeff before he disappears. Can you tell me what we've got in recreation reserves? Is it set apart for anything? We put $1 million away for the rec center, and it never went through. So, can you tell me what we've got for recreation reserves?
I happen to have that here, thankfully. There's $355,000 in recreation reserves. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. 355,000, and that is intended to support the rec master plan. That's what we're putting it in for. But yes, it's at your discretion.
Thank you.
So I appreciate your question, Councillor Court. It's always good to know. But what has me a little bit concerned is that the rec committee has not been appraised of your project and could have been a wonderful asset for you because I could have put it in the priorities as I wished, right? So that's a little bit a miss. But we can change that right now. My question is to carry on with Councillor Grainger regarding the grant and the restrictive use of that grant when it comes to sports facility. You're trying to make it more within a parameter of what the foundation is funding in donations by making it accessible to all. That will be really the important parameter to really change their mind regarding that project. So I get that. But then it begs a question about when you open it to other people than the Little League and you were talking about the girls softball. If it's open to the community, then somebody needs to do the booking, somebody needs to do the maintenance.
I agree with you on that.
And so I don't know who that somebody will be, because if you were talking about partnership, which means that you would be looking at the town taking on possibly the booking or the locking up or the opening of facility. So help me understand.
On that note, I actually think that the town, I would like to see more of that potential booking of facilities and batting cages, fields, more accessibility. I know that there was an incident with dugouts being locked up for youth days and things like that. I would like to see and work with the town in any way that I can to help these facilities be more open to people. I have a few ideas. I don't know if this is the place to discuss them right now, but I do have some ideas of potential fixes for some of those problems. But I've been trying to work with some individuals to try to look at maybe online scheduling for fields and different things like this, so that it can be a little bit more organized, so that you can book it out, and so that groups know ahead of time when they're able to practice and things like that.
Yeah, I know Raymond has a director that kind of does that. In our town, we used to have that long time ago. Right now, we don't have that person that is assigned to those things. Councillor Brown?
So, two things. So, it's my understanding, to go back to what Councillor Grainger said, is this, outside the realm of this grant. I don't think it is, or he would have been shut down by, what was her name?
Caitlin.
By Caitlin.
There's nothing that I haven't discussed with you that I did discuss with her.
Right,
She said
so I
that
think if it was inappropriate, she'd have shut it down and saved him the paperwork ahead of time. I mean, because they're good at that. And the other thing is, what the mayor referred to as, who's going to book all of that? Well, I mean, we did that with the soccer building. We have the soccer building. We lock up the bathrooms. We, did lots. We painted lines. The soccer club did all of that. And yet the town also did booking for it. So Little League would be similar, as in they would have a code to get into whatever it is. And I do think when I went to a Parks and Rec meeting with a bunch of other municipalities, they had an app that you would go online and you would book it in, and the app would take care of everything. And it just took the stress out. It stopped me showing up at youth days and having everything locked, right? So that's another conversation for another day, but you should bring it up with your Parks and Rec board so that they can kick it to council. Yes. That's the right way to go with that.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that. And that's kind of what I envisioned with this batting cage, is that Little League is just as much a user as anybody privately, and that we would be able to book off times for Little League.
Right.
And then also, when I want to go there in the evening with my kids, just me and my kids, I would book that as well.
So the final part of my question is, on the tennis courts, I, like Councillor Grainger, didn't quite understand. So if you put it inside the tennis court, and you're saying you put this line in, not being an engineer, I don't know, you're putting the line in, and then you said you're stringing mesh upon it. So is it like a curtain? So then if I want to play pickleball or tennis, I would remove that curtain and go to town? Or once it's in, it's in?
Yeah, it would be designated for.
Okay. I just thought that.
I think that you would need to put up a permanent fence in between the two. You would take that west court and you would match the fencing height for the rest of it. And again, this is just spitballing ideas. I mean, I think it's great. Again, it's already 3 walls up, and it still leaves 2 other pickleball courts, tennis courts. But
Councillor Jensen want to ask this question, and then I would like to ask you.
I just want to say that I'm all for baseball. My sons all play baseball, not soccer, but baseball. But I want to know, so how many players do you have in a season? Like, I know it goes from like something age 4 to 18, and you said you're with the high school as well.
Mm-hmm.
So how many players are we looking at?
So this last year for Little League, we had 225 plus, which was higher on our numbers, but we've ranged anywhere from 190 up to that number for Little League. And then girls softball, I don't know historically their numbers, but their league size has been relatively the same. They've offered age groups, teams at different age groups, and so I think to say that for them that 100 plus participant mark would be appropriate for them. And again, our men's softball, women's softball, co-ed, those have all been
so your numbers are
8, 16s, yeah. They've all been very consistent over the years with those numbers.
Okay, do you want to ask a question, and I'll ask a question?
So Jeff, a question for you. How often, and what's our history as the town of Cardston applying for grants to this community foundation?
Can I just ask, Mayor, we need to have the delegate here to have all this conversation, or he's been 35 minutes at the lectern?
I
Do we
think
want
it's
to
pretty
tidy up
good.
with him and then you can talk about this a little later? I mean,
Yeah, I can hold my
question.
question.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to say. Ben, you're giving us a lot of information. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What we need to discuss is a time right for us to give you that letter now? Or are we going to look at the next intake? I don't know when the next intake, I think it's every 6 months, this type of intake. Right. Because of the time factor, it's so tight.
Yeah.
And normally we discuss those the week after we have a delegation. So right now we've really done a wire and I don't even see it on the agenda.
And
so,
oh, sorry.
So that is something I really want you to keep open in mind, because I think there is value in what you're proposing, but I don't know that the timing is exactly the right one right now. So I don't want to disappoint you. I want you to keep on your good idea and see what we can do as a council for you. Okay, fair enough. And Jeff will give you the result of discussing, and we're mindful that you need an answer, if positive, by very soon, like tomorrow. We need a letter pretty well fine.
And I apologize that I don't have hard, fast numbers on it. I understand that it's frustrating to hear something like this and to say, well, what's it going to cost? What's it going to cost? Because ultimately, it's taxpayers' money that you guys are dealing with, and I appreciate your guys' responsibility with that. On that note, I do feel that this is a worthwhile project. I do think it will be a huge benefit for our community. I think that it will be able to be a good partnership with whoever's using it, and to be able to create a better baseball, softball atmosphere in the community. And so, again, not having the hard, fast numbers, I apologize on that, but I do think it's something, and I hope that you consider it to help this project along and to push it through. And again, I understand that that it might not be the right time, but I really hope that you consider it, because it's not something that's going to incur a lot of extra cost to it. The cost is the cost of it. You're not going to find something that's going on in the construction. It's pretty straightforward. So.
What you need to also understand that all the answer doesn't come from us. The community foundation ultimately makes the decision.
This is all hinging on that.
Right. Yes. So we can have all the high hope, but you might have to find yourself reapplying. But the window is good this year, I understand, because we have no project. But for us, that means for 2 years we can't apply.
I believe it's just for the next year, isn't it, Jeff?
For the next year, correct. Yeah.
For the next year, so next year can we apply? No, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so
it's
a year out.
Every second year we can apply.
Just a quick
We
question.
need to kind of wrap it up, Councillor. Is that
It's quick.
okay?
Have you looked at any other funding sources other than the foundation?
I have not. Little League is, like I said, Little League is committed money to it as well. I have some other ideas for fundraising in regards to baseball and softball. That's another topic for another day that I hope I get to discuss with you guys someday soon. But I do have some thoughts on further fundraising to be able to fund some of this stuff. So.
Just for you, for the next time around, pass your project through your committee and try to match our budget kind of timing.
Yeah, I apologize.
Because when those two mesh together, we have seen fantastic projects come up. When those are not in sync, we have seen gruesome, difficult time.
And I have discussed with several members of the Parks and Rec Committee that are in favor of it, but it hasn't officially ever been to the Parks and Rec Committee.
So if you had a motion from them, great. So all the best, and we hope to have Jeff give you your answers. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And keep up the fantastic work you do with our youth. It's much, much appreciated.
Thank you, man.
All right, Council, we need to make a little bit of a decision there, because as you know, we have chosen to not have the discussion and approval of anything of delegation until the next meeting. But as you can see, there's a time frame that we need to kind of help him with. So if you want to add a decision on the delegation request, we need to have it added to the agenda.
Can you just explain, I'm trying to understand the foundation, so are we making that, like, how does this work? Like,
Okay.
So he goes and asks the foundation?
Jeff,
I'm just trying to understand it, so.
Yeah,
That's my question.
Yeah, it's a good question, because those of you who have not gone through the process need to understand the process. So Jeff,
So is this on the agenda now?
Oh, it doesn't have to be,
Are we discussing it?
Well, we should make a
okay,
motion to change.
but that's what I mean, that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to get, Councillor Brown.
I would love to make a motion to discuss this, yeah, I got this. I would like to make a motion to add this to our agenda for, I'm just going to say Councillor Court, not, for Ben Court in regards to the batting cages, for a decision to be tonight on whether or not we support it.
Support the application to the foundation.
Yep. That's what I just said.
Yep.
Yeah. All in favor? So,
Okay. So
Go
to your
ahead.
question, Community Foundational Lethbridge in Southwest Alberta is a small granting agency out of Lethbridge. And every 6 months they do an intake. They usually do quite small projects. They like that 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. They stretch to 7,500, even 10,000 we've seen on odd occasion, but they like to spread it around. They require that applicants are CRA registered applicants. So most of your community groups on their own can't apply, but they're very accommodating for community groups to apply through CRA organizations like municipalities or schools. So what we see in Cardston a lot, like the seniors will use, they'll apply through the town. That's what fixed their roof a few years ago. The Healing Garden Monument was a small piece of that came through there. And different little projects, the Rotarians will apply through the town if they have a community project. So we usually end up being the mechanism for a community group to apply who wouldn't otherwise qualify. That's usually how we play in that space.
So, like, back to my question. So the application itself would be a town of Cardston
Yes.
document?
Yeah.
Councillor Jordan.
So you say that we can't apply, not next year, but the year after. So how often do we make an application? How often does this come up? Like every time, or
Yeah,
or
generally.
not hardly ever, or?
No, we see an application, most intakes, again, from a community group that's using us as the vehicle to apply. That's generally what we see.
Is that often? Is that every time?
Yeah,
every
I would say
time
once a
we
year,
help?
probably annually.
So is this what my question is, like, in the next meeting, that what we were going to discuss, who we were going to apply on behalf of, kind of thing? Is that,
No.
like, I'm trying to understand, so Ben approaches the town, other people approach the town to apply for them, and you say we get lots of applications.
So there isn't another community group looking to apply that can't either apply on their own or has another sponsoring organization. So there are other applications from the area. I talked to Caitlin last week as well, but there may be through the school, they might be through. There are a few organizations in town that can access it, and so they've each navigated their way through
And
those.
so in our next meeting, what is what you talk about next meeting? What is our role?
Okay. Councillor, that is a little bit a different question. So normally, this council had decided a few meetings ago or years ago that when we have a delegation, we do not make a decision on the presentation of the delegation the day of the delegation. We do it at the following meeting.
So this has nothing to do with the foundation?
No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so, but here, Here is the issue. There are multiple issues. One is that the Sports and Recs did not have it on their list of priority. They don't have a motion, but they have a champion that has spoken to them and who are in favor of it, but officially we don't have that representation.
Sorry, I was trying to correlate why it's till next week for this foundation.
So it's a governance issue and the other
Okay.
one is a request.
Thank you.
Councillor Burton.
Well, my question is, when we can apply once a year, is that once per calendar year?
It's their intake year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do we turn the pumpkins? When is our year done? In other words,
Yeah, pretty much. That's right.
So if we don't do this one, because for the reasons you stated, I think it's a phenomenal project. I vote against it because we've skipped the rec committee and we've skipped balancing against anybody else who might want to come in. Having said that, if we're at like day 300 say if we're 3 days or so away from.
It's a large intake.
You are.
If we expire and we wasted that year.
Yeah.
You are.
But then that's offset by being able to apply next year.
Correct.
Well, I'll just say my opinion is, it's too rushed. I would rather do it the next 6 months. You know, I would rather do it after we do the rep committee. I think it'll go ahead. I think it's great. I fully support it, but I don't see any reason to skip the process.
It's always the same story. If we skip the process, the proper steps, then anybody can come and push us to make rush decisions. It's not always the best, but the project is absolutely worthwhile for the community. I really believe it.
I'm not sure who was first.
Let's.
Okay. All right. I think one of my concerns is alleviated, that this practice of if they're not eligible to be able to apply, we have on occasion applied on behalf of the community.
Yes,
like this.
many times.
Okay, that's good, because when I first looked at it, I thought, well, wait a second, this is not wrong.
No, that many times we done it.
But I share Councillor Burton's concerns. Like, if you're going to apply for a grant, you need to have a better handle on the costs. And that concerns me, that we don't have a handle on the costs. And then, my second concern, like his, is the Parks and Rec committee hasn't chimed in on this, at least not officially, and that's a concern. So it is now kind of rushed. I don't like that. And then the third thing is, if we take a tennis court away, surely the Parks and Rec committee or the tennis people or the pickleball people might have something to say about that, and that concerns me. That where's their voice in this? And then my last point is what money to go around, and there might be a perfectly good, valid project that would have a higher priority, and we can't apply for it or help somebody apply for it for another year if we go with this one. So I'm not overly comfortable with the optics or the process.
I mean, maybe not perfect.
So I hear what you all are saying, but we cannot pretend, sitting at this table, that we haven't done this before, because we have. We have pushed through, not this council, but in years past, we have pushed through things that aren't exactly fit the cookie cutter. And so, I'm coming. Let me talk. I got this. So I think, like when Parks and Rec, they had, we didn't have exact numbers on the frisbee golf. Nope. Frisbee disc golf.
Sorry.
And so, no, that's what I needed, disc golf. So we needed, but they also needed to send a grant in. And so we thought, as Parks and Rec, we thought, well, we don't have all the information, but we're going to send the grant in, and if they get it, we'll cross that bridge. And we as council felt the same. We didn't know exactly if we were going to put it along the river bottom, because we didn't agree to that. We had them go talk to the Remington Carriage Center, but we didn't have a confirmed location because it was, well, we'll see if you get the grant first. So this is kind of similar in that, let's go see if you get your grant first, and then we can nail down where you're going to put it. I do agree, though, it is ideal to have it go through Parks and Rec. I mean, that's why they're there. It's a little bit of a slap in the face as a Parks and Rec person, thinking, well, why am I here if you're just going to skip over us and go to council? I get that, 100%. I love the idea. I am sad that we are 3 days away from the deadline. That's stress to me, but we could be in support of this in the 3 days and support this through and see if he actually gets the money, and if he gets the money, then it comes back to Parks and Rec, and I mean, we still could go that way, just being devil's advocate, because I like that.
Yeah, I see that there's a system that you have to follow and whatnot, but he, you know, he didn't, and he's here now. I think it's a great idea. I believe that we should support him and say, go ahead, see if you can get your grant and move forward with that. You know, anytime we're improving our community is a plus for us. And so I don't see why we wouldn't want to. And if he comes back in 6 months from now, are we going to approve it? Probably. So why don't we just approve it now and get the ball rolling? I don't know. You know, I understand what everyone else is saying, but I think, you know, let's just approve it now and let him go and see if he can get the grant. Why not?
Councillor Court.
Yeah, obviously, you know, he's my son. I know how hard he works at different things. He never mentions also the president of flag football as well. And he probably overextends himself a little bit. What I don't want to do is discourage people like him from continuing to try and improve our recreation facilities. Again, I want to look at this a little bit different. As Councillor Brown said, what does it hurt? And both Councillor Brown and Councillor Marsha said, what does it hurt to apply for it now? He doesn't get it. Also, I know Councillor Grainger is trying to nail down a price. And the problem that Ben has, he's been over the top busy. It's like May, and he probably just didn't get on this as quick as he should. I agree with that on that one. But I do believe we're talking about 4 walls, basically, with chain link fence. I don't think the price is going to be exorbitant. Having said that, we're also sitting on over $350,000 in recreation reserves. I know it's not pigeonholed for anything, but it's for the rec master plan. I get that as well. But it'd be a relatively small amount of money that we're talking about, even if we didn't get the grant. Also, I'd like to focus on the young. Between the young and the old, we're probably looking at 400 or 500 people out of the town of 4,000 are involved in some kind of ball somewhere. And that's a significant part of our population. And we're dealing again from ages 3 or 4 all the way up to the seniors that are older than me even, which is hard to believe, but anyhow. I just don't like the idea of stifling ideas when they come up with them. I understand there's a process we have to go through, but as Councillor Brown mentioned, every once in a while we have to skip past that process and see what is the greater good for the community. And so I would encourage that we accept his proposal. It doesn't hurt us if it doesn't go through. If it doesn't go through, we can get other options of trying to get this thing done. As also you mentioned, they're willing to donate, I don't know if it was $1,500 per net or what it was, but they're willing only a significant part of the cost and help to maintain it. So I don't know why we would not support this. Thank you.
Thank you for your support of your son. Councillor Kenny, and then we need to...
Yeah, that's fine. I know Ben had talked to me about this specific thing about 2 months ago. He was at my work and we were chatting for 20 minutes, and I told him 2 months ago, I told him to come to council. I told him to come to Parks and Rec, because he's actually on the board. So that's why I was wondering why it hadn't been brought up yet, and I hadn't heard he was coming. So I understand things get in your way in life, and he's very busy, I get that. I know that there's a governance process. I know that everyone, I can speak almost for everyone on Parks and Rec would support it. I understand that there's a process, and I guess it just depends on how we feel about deviating from that governance process for little things here and there. But I think there's full support with our council for this. It's just the timing that we're disagreeing on.
Yeah.
That's what I can see. So.
Personally, I really fully support the idea of that project. I really do. But, you know, I'm really sticky regarding having things done in proper order, because when we do things in proper order, it always ends up better. We don't have to apologize. I know at time, if it was a showdown, I would say maybe we need to do it. But knowing the foundation the way I know it, and having looking at all the projects I have approved over the years, I have my doubt that this one will end up in that priority list one, but that's no here nor there. For me, it's more a question of timing, a question of having a proper budget in mind, and also at the alternative councillor quote, you saying we have money in reserve, but it's all earmarked. The reserves are not unmarked, they're marked. They're marked according to the priority of the very committee who was supposed it should have used to present a thing and change the priority. That was the right thing. I understand he's busy, he's obviously doing a lot of good, but we can't excuse everything and try to say that becomes a priority and council is going to deem it a priority over the priority list of the committee. That has me, like Councillor Brown said, it's a slap in the face to that committee. Why are they in existence if council is going to do their work? No one in any other committee would appreciate that. No one. And that is a little bit more of a problem for me. If we seen it last year with the community center, it was not a priority of the Parks and Rec, but all of a sudden was deemed a priority by council, and it didn't fare very well. And so I think when we align together, it works so much better. I would support that. If they were not having the grant, I would really say that should apply at the next intake and really have their budget in place, figure out how they're going to get a little bit of money from donations or by increasing fees or whatever that is. Have that all together, and I think council is already expressing that support for the whole idea. So if it comes to the committee of Parks and Recs and that deem it a priority, well, it's simple. It's budget time. It'll be put in a budget this year and you have the money in the spring. So the money will be there. It's just how do we go about doing it according to proper principles of governance, that's all. Councillor.
I'm very uncomfortable in terms of deviating from the process, the rules, the procedures. I don't care what happened in previous councils, I'm on this council. Mm-hmm. And I share your concern about the foundation, that he's obviously gung-ho for it, and good for him. Right? And personally, I think it's probably not a bad use of taxpayers' money. Mm-hmm. But the process, the lack of the Parks and Rec committee input, he's not prepared with dollar figures, and I don't know that I want the town of Cardston's name on an application that looks like this. Mm-hmm. And it's not following the process. I cannot support this at this time. Down the road, that's a different story.
Yeah, and there's other way to skin the cat. I mean, like I said, the money can come strictly from the reserve if the committee of Parks and Recs gives it a priority, and so the money could happen even without a grant. Councillor.
Yeah, I think we beat this to death. Why we vote on it? It's 6 o'clock already.
No, I
Jeff was
totally
only beat up by
appreciate
6
that.
o'clock.
Councillor Core, you're
I appreciate that, Councillor. All right. So here is, it's not even supporting the project. What the motion, I should say, is supporting the grant application for the October Community Foundation intake. That is what we are approving. It's not the project. The project we're all in favor.
I was just going to ask Jeff, like, is there enough time to do it? Like, if we were to vote yes.
I don't have to do anything.
Well, I don't think it's what, Friday? Is that what the deadline is? Like, I don't know how long it takes to do a grant.
It's in our name.
Yeah, so I have to, actually I shouldn't say I don't have to do anything. I have to fill out what's called an intermediary agreement, but it's it's a 5-minute thing, and then they work with the applicant on our behalf. That's what happens.
Okay.
But it's very quick for us.
Okay, so what you need to do is, are we going to support the application for the October 2022 Community Foundation intake? Yeah. Well, seeing none.
Didn't Councillor Brown make that motion?
No.
Sorry, I made a motion to put it on the agenda, Councillor, so we could talk about it.
Right. Well, I'll make a motion to apply for the grant with community, what is it called, Jeff?
Community Foundation, Councillor.
Community Foundation, I'll make that motion.
All right. So we have all heard each other's concern, and we know that it's not a project that we disagree with. We all agree for the project. It's the timing of the project and the process. So, all in favor? Oh. All against? Okay. So, Jeff, you will put a letter together of support for this grant. And please let Ben know that we all support his project one way or the other, that he gets the funding through the grant or not. Yes.
I also think it's important, Councillor Kenley, that in your next meeting, you bring it up and explain that this council, it was not the intent to overstep them, but because of the timing of this, and I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah.
We need to, we need for them to know of their importance, but because of the timing alone is the way it was handled, the way it was.
Actually,
7 of us thought it was a good idea.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, it's no doubt that the project is a worthy project, and I would support it any time, but the timing is a little bit of a problem for me. All right, let's carry on. Under other business, the resolution arising from the planning session. Jeff, I only have one issue, is that I don't have them in my packet.
I texted you all this afternoon.
You did, around.
Sorry, Mayor, I forgot you already got your package.
Yeah, I probably.
I'll give you mine right here.
Could you?
Yeah.
And I was reading them and I was thinking, yeah. That's just a little detail. Okay, all right. So we have a list of of resolutions that need to be passed, not requisitioned.
Mayor, if I might, they're passed if you feel it represented, if you
Yes.
want correctly.
Yeah,
Don't take it on face value if you're not comfortable.
I totally hear you. All right. So, Councillor.
Just a couple of wording things if I can, Jeff. Item 2. Direct administration to send out education material on the history of road and potential. So, road what? Road, original road construction, is that what you mean?
Yeah, yes, just on that, the history of that road is what I meant, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can say it however you like in the motion.
Are we doing
Okay,
these one by one?
Okay. Can we start with number 1 and let's try to be a little bit progressive this way?
The technologically challenged guy, but I know it's not where am I?
In the same folder.
Yeah,
It's under 6A and B.
Maybe the same folder. Is it on the agenda or is it a separate
Okay,
document?
can you pass them down? Pass them
Because I
down.
don't,
Shem, we'll just have Shem, you just check and see if he's not updating.
There.
I don't know if I see this.
Yeah, Councillor Burton? Yeah.
Where?
We're a little challenged.
Councillor Grainger.
I found it. I can find it.
Okay.
All right.
You in business?
Councillor Brown, go ahead with the first direction.
I would love to.
Transmission, please.
Okay.
Yeah,
Councillor, I would like to direct administration to amend the public safety bylaw as per the legal recommendation.
Okay, are we okay with that one? Yes, all in favor? Thank you. Let's move to Councillor Grainger.
I move to have administration send out education material on the history of the original road construction and potential for local improvement taxes to the residents of the new portion of 3rd Avenue West.
Okay.
I got your wording.
All in favor that the word construction was added?
Yep.
All right, on number 3, come on, Councillor Jensen.
I make a motion that we direct administration to investigate different models for town committees and committee assignments.
Yeah. All in favor? Yeah, I mean, it's redundant, let's call them redundant. Under 4, Councillor Brown.
I direct administration to create and distribute a community awareness campaign for contacting RCMP and peace officers in Cardston.
Right. All in favor? Thank you. All right. Councillor Burton, do you want to do one and Councillor Kenley one afterwards?
Councillor Court will do one if you want me to.
There's only 6.
I'm on it.
Okay, 6 councillors.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, I move that we direct administration to enhance labor resources to Main Street custodial and animal control.
Yeah. All in favor? Thank you. All right, Councillor Court, go ahead with 6. And Councillor
Make a
Kenley,
resolution.
get as the last one.
What do you want that one?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
You can have it if you want.
Go ahead, Councillor.
Okay. Make a resolution to recommend that administration investigate the creation of a gathering space on or near Main Street that is more preferable for the vulnerable population to use.
Okay. All in favor? Thank you.
Councillor Burton will want
I can do another one.
Go ahead, I don't want
Don't make him
to.
do it.
Yeah, it's all yours, Councillor Burton. I could put your name in there.
I move that we direct administration to investigate best practices for euthanizing stray and abandoned animals.
All in favor?
Bishop's question.
I have a comment on that. So, I don't know that we need the word euthanizing. I think that we just need, perhaps direct administration to investigate best practices to deal with stray and abandoned animals.
Fine, Mike.
The dealing was a little bit more complex.
And I appreciate what you're saying, Councillor Jensen. The reason, and I knew this was a bit of a difficult one, your conversation at the time was, I think we're currently employing fairly good best practice, and we have good policy around holding and then releasing and putting up for adoption. And we've tried to take an approach where we don't euthanize any animals. And I'm not suggesting we start the resolution, and there was some discussion about maybe in some cases we need to look at that as an option for management. Now you'll ultimately have to say whether or not we implement that, but this was going to at least start us investigating whether that was something we should look at.
Yeah.
And what those logistics and costs might be. But it isn't a foregone conclusion. There was just conversation that might be, especially where we know they're not owned, where they're feral, where they're not tame, where they have different issues, that we would investigate that as an option.
And we were comparing it to the cost of driving them to Nanton,
Right.
whatever it was to have it done.
Yeah.
That was the issue.
And the issue is because the shelters outside of town are extremely full.
Right, but I'm saying on the major issue, we were, if my memory is right, we were driving an hour away and an hour back, more than that.
Councillor Jensen, go ahead.
Okay, so, since we met with the planning meeting and Jeff, stated, why a shelter? They're all full. And, so I've done my homework, I've done a lot more homework on this. And, you're right, why a shelter? I'm not in favor of a shelter. Not anymore, not since I've investigated it and looked at it. And you're right, they're all, most of them are full.
Yeah.
The other option that you have is cat sanctuaries, which are nice and whatnot, and they certainly serve a purpose, but they are high to maintain and whatnot. I'm not in favor of the cat sanctuary either. As I went in to look at it, I came across post after post, website that stated that back a few years ago, everyone was doing the catch and kill program. Catch, kill 'em. This is worldwide. Okay, worldwide, catch and kill. What they were finding was that it wasn't working, because what was happening is that as they were taking cats out of an area, other cats would come in. So they called it, what was happening was what they called the vacuum effect. So they sucked them out and more come back in. And it just keeps going on and on and on. What they have found that is effective is trap, neuter, and release back to the same area. And that is very effective because it keeps the other cats out. It's humane because it allows the cat to live its life out, and it helps to keep them in their own area. With the TNR, there are lots of pluses to it. Number one, you find that your cats stop roaming because they're not looking for a mate. Number two, they stop them night yowling because they're not looking for a mate. It stops the cats' fights because they are content, they're happy, they're more happy. It controls your rodent population big time. And six, the best one, is that then your citizens are happy because then they know that the community, the town, is doing something rather than nothing.
So that's the cats. What about the dogs?
The dogs are a different situation, and I talked to Melody Wood, and she said, okay, so we gave $1,000 to Home Safe Animal shelter people for, but we gave it, sort of gave it directly to Foothills North to spay, neuter, vaccinate. You want your cats, you want those strays vaccinated, otherwise they get disease, and then pretty soon little Fluffy that's a house cat gets that. So you want that, and it's really, it costs $22.50 to vaccinate them. But since May 18th of this year, they have spayed and neutered 16 cats. They have helped with food, vaccination, and vet care to 10 dogs and 105 cats. They have found homes for many of them, and they have taken several of them to positive shelter in Calgary. Now I want you to understand one more thing. There's 3 types of cats. Number one, there's the house cat that is your pet, that's in your home that you love and whatnot. There is a stray cat. Stray cats mostly are cats that have a home. They will allow you to touch them, pet them, or whatever, pick them up. but for whatever reason, they've lost their home, or they are lost. They were COVID animals and the owners have kicked them out or whatever. Those are strays. Something can be done with strays. And the feral cats who don't want to live in a house, they like it outside, and they won't let you touch them. Usually, they're afraid of humans. That's never. So in my opinion, and also Melody told me that while our bylaw officer was on holiday, the RCMP put a dog in the pound, not realizing that Sean was on holidays, and she saw the dog in there, so she went in and made sure it had food and water and cleaned up after it and whatnot after it was while it was in the pound there. So the animal safe people are doing their job. They're doing what they should be doing and what they know how to do in the best way that they can. To spay and neuter, it's $200. Or to spay is $200. Neuter is $64. Vaccinate them is $22.50. Tattoo them so that they know that they're done is $2. And that vaccine is for herpes and rabies and whatever else. So they're doing their job. Okay. And they have used their money from their book sale that they've had and their craft sale stuff. They are working to get their money. She says that they haven't used all of the town's $1,000 yet that we've given them. And she also requested that they use the pound. After you fix them, you have to watch them for a little while so that they don't rip open the stickers, so that they've been putting them in the pound, which is a good thing, and then they just return it to wherever they came from.
Councillor Burton.
Just a question for clarification. So are they, I'll just be neutering dogs and then putting them back on the street, or just cats?
Just cats. I don't know about the dogs. We don't seem to really have the problem with the dogs like we do the cats. Most of our dogs are coming off of the reserve, and they do have owners. So
the dog problem that I see, when I watched the lady taking a little dog down the bridge and these other two dogs attacked her, and she was understandably scared out of it too. I don't care if that dog's neutered or not. It has no place doing that. Or when they intimidate people from going into stores because they're in front of them, a dog in my mind, and I'm a dog lover, when they're on the loose, they're in trouble. I've seen them in packs.
When the dogs start traveling in packs, then that's a big concern.
Yeah,
but my question is if we start to euthanize those dogs that are coming off the reserve, are we going to get ourselves into a lot of trouble?
Well, those are all good, valid points. But we have a motion on the table. Did you have a motion? Oh, no, we have a motion.
I made the motion, we voted on it, but we should have said any discussion.
No, we did not vote on it.
We almost did, but we caught her before you did.
We did not have a motion. Is there any desire to change the wording of that motion? That's a question. Or is that staying the way it is?
Yes, I feel that, like I said, that better to have it be to deal with or something else other than euthanize.
But is there...
So change it.
Well, it's Councillor Burton's motion.
Yeah, you can change it.
Councillor Burton, are you accepting a friendly amendment?
Does deal with include looking at euthanasia?
I would imagine if a dog is very sick or absolutely in a state of whatever.
Does your motion with dealing with, are we still looking at euthanizing? The things
as one of them.
It's one of the possibilities.
Well, possibly, alternatives to euthanizing.
That and alternative. In other words, if it's just, let's look at the options, then yes, I'd accept that. But in my head, that's one of our options really.
Well, I
Okay,
think
so-
we should be looking at options, so alternatives to euthanizing.
No, that's not.
So I'm not going to accept it.
Then, okay, all right, so the motion stays the way it is. All in favor? Against? Okay. All right.
I'm going to take
Thank
that
you.
back from you. Oh, no, you need it for the next one too. Oh, there's just the recommendation from CCW.
It's okay, you guys can. All right. Guys, we were supposed to have a short meeting.
Commissioner?
Go ahead.
I would move to direct administration to look at areas in our comprehensive land use document with force to determine if there are areas that need enough attention sufficient to amend the bylaws.
Make sense? All in favor? Thank you. Second motion, somebody. That's all? That's the only, oh, sorry, I don't have.
I was going to point something out.
Go ahead.
When I raised this issue last time, I said that I was kind of directly and indirectly involved with it, and they came out with a really good product. I wasn't taking any of that credit to myself. That was Mike Burton and their administration and the councils. They did this phenomenal job.
Good.
I just wasn't taking any credit to me. I was just saying I've seen the process work, and would be happy to do
Well,
it.
thanks, Mike, for us, and whoever else. So there is a financial report. That is a financial report as of the end of August. So we don't have all the revenue sources yet, absolutely to the September 30th. So that'll come next time. Unless you have really concern, we can use that as information.
I have just one question, if I could.
Go ahead.
On the income statement, just under our first subtotal, government operating transfers,
Yes.
and there's about a $300,000 difference. Is that like a grant that you hoped to get and didn't, or because it doesn't say that that's something we catch up by the end of the year? Is the income statement?
On the second document.
Yeah. Oh, yes, got it. Okay. Oh, yeah, mine's a different format than yours, sorry. Correct. So, most of that is likely NSI, and it will roll through at the end of the year. Yeah.
Jeff, I have one question for you. If you look at the very end of revenue and expenses, in a full budget, there is a deficit, which is normal because it's part of the amortization. But when you look at the amortization, it is $2,528,800, but the deficit is $70,000 higher, and I'm thinking, okay, where did the $70,000 crop up from?
So it's just likely that we don't have all our revenues, but so we'll expend more seasonally then, and our revenues are broken up pretty evenly over 12 months.
Now, okay, so that was a full budget, or was the original budget? It's not the actual I'm talking about. So I will show you that later on. I just think maybe there is a little bit of a mistake there somewhere.
Okay, yeah, I'll look at that for you.
Yeah. Okay, so next, yeah. Oh, so sorry.
With the budget on the golf, that's 700,000, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Does that include the golf carts that we ordered that are in the QE?
So the let me just jump to golf here. So we have 717,000 budgeted, and that is not including capital. No.
Councillor Grainger, go ahead.
Yeah, the lack of the granting of the 3.3 million
Sure.
for the sewage treatment.
Yep.
What is that going to do to these numbers? I mean, what it says to me is that we can't start construction
Sure.
even if we had wanted to.
Yeah.
And if we had to have the 3.3 grant given to
Yes.
us, we likely would have had shovels in the ground
Yeah.
this year, potentially, and
Potentially,
certainly
yeah.
early next year.
Yeah.
But none of that's gonna happen now, so does the 3.3 or the lack of the 3.3, is that gonna show up in here, or what's that gonna do?
Yeah. So when you get your year ends, we start looking at that, you're gonna find that we were both under budget in the revenue and under budget in the expense.
Yeah.
Right, so we simply don't, so we have, I mean, this is an extreme example, but we have to look and say, hey, don't start a sewer plant because we didn't get the grant, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll simply be under budget in each of those.
So
and
that'll
we'll-
work out.
Yeah, and we'll roll that
And then
forward.
we've got to reset for next year's
Correct.
budget, hoping and anticipating that we'll get the 3.3
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah. Yeah, so it washes at the bottom because it's an offset either way. The only difference, Councillor Grainger, though, if I might real quick, is we will expend some of that money in the engineering this
Yes.
year.
And
So-
we've got that covered.
Yeah, so that's in it, the whole project was in there, and some of that will be expended out of our own funds, and then the difference will roll forward.
So we'll reset the clock this budget cycle.
Correct.
Good question, Councillor. Okay, correspondence. Kathy Heron, Alberta Municipalities, you could see that they're a little frustrated with the way the government is kind of dealing with some of the issues. On the 9B, Jennifer Jensen, this one I think we need to give it a little bit of attention. There is a Remington Carriage Museum. They're doing on October 29th, they're doing a posting of a Halloween trunk and treat. So what that letter is sent to the town, and if you could see, they have 1, 2, 3 of possibilities of how they would like possibly to have the town involved. One is donate candy, have a representative dress in costume to greet the children, distribute candy during the event. So, Jeff, number one, do we have an idea if we want to participate in that with candies? Do we have a small donation towards that? Would you like to support that idea? Do any of you like to spare 2 hours and get dressed up? I can get dressed up.
So I support it.
Good.
Supporting a lot of things lately, but anyway, this one I think it's a great opportunity for council, and I think because it's for the community, I think I fully support it, and I would be willing to donate candy or I guess my question to Jeff would be, if we said we were, because it says donate candy, have a representative, it goes through all of those things. Do we have funds? Would this be under your, $50 that we
Unless you have
spend?
visions of thousands of dollars of candy, I'm sure we can make it work.
I mean, that's my question actually. Are we setting up a budget? I mean, candy doesn't come cheap, already, but is a budget of $150 something that you can buy enough candy to make it last 2 hours?
Yeah, I can't speak to the number of participants in this. I couldn't say what the right number is. I just don't know.
So, would this be are we going to kick this to the next meeting to bring up, or are we making?
Make a motion now.
That's fantastic. So,
Go right ahead.
I'm going to do that.
Make it all those clowns.
I will not, thank you. I would like to make a motion that we support the Remington Museum trick or trunk that will be held on Saturday, October 29th from 1 till 3, that we donate $150 of candy, and that we have a representative or so dressed in costume to greet the children, and that if we can, as councillors, show up a little bit early to set up, to help them set up and take down. That's my motion.
Okay, so is there anybody who would like to do that? I would love to go and assist. Councillor Kenny, would you like to do that? If the three of us,
I have a tentative commitment of that.
yeah. Councillor?
I will go, but I'm not in
Okay,
You're
well,
from theater.
I think
Hold
that,
strong, Councillor.
I think the whole fun of it is to be in costume. All in favor? Okay. All right, so, Councillor, Councillor, we need to find out at what time they want us there.
I think administration.
I'll talk to you.
Can you find out for us?
Sure.
Thank you, and let us know. So three of us, tell them three of us will come. I am not sure I can lift a thing too heavy, but I can surely
We got you.
do things. Okay, the next one is thank you card, and then we can go into closed session for a land sale issue. A motion?
Before you do that, sorry, I have one question. They didn't use the pool? Is that what I'm getting at?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Was it bad weather or something, or?
Not so sure, they had something else going on,
Okay.
but I would like to reserve the option for years to come.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
why.
And Tammy of Channel 32, thank you for being there and wish your son the best quick recovery.
Thank you.
And Councillor Court, get better. We don't hear you have, so that's a good sign. All in favor of going into session?
Who made the motion? I'll make that motion.
Motion was on the table.
Yeah.
All in favor? Councillor Kenley,
Hovering.
maybe for
Hovering
you.